Continuation of last week. Last week we discussed the B'nai Soscha. Soscha that says, a person feels that if when he comes to Hashem during Shema Kelaini, for anything that he needs, for Panusa, for the fear, you have a makatrik that goes against him and his tefillah might not be answered. Says B'nai Soscha, if a person has a fear of his tefillah not to be answered, then there's a solution for him. Then it's better he should daven tefillah rather praising Hashem, and during the praise to be Meshabayach Hashem, he's going to think of those things that he needs. His words are, "In mitztanach le'espal al refiyah." If he needs to daven for refiyah, lo yespal derech tefillah taikev. He shouldn't daven derech tefillah. He should praise Hashem derech shrach laboy la'olam. That Hashem is roi for choylem. And b'machshavtoi, in his mind, he'll have a mind to be mamshech refiyah for those who need a refiyah. And the boy la'olam, meidaya tanimis leiv, not meluchim. The boy la'olam will answer his plea. The reason is, since he mentions the Shlach HaBoile, Hashem is a Poil Yeshiyas, who is going to be Mekatrik on these words? All the Maluchim are masked. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will listen to his machshava that he is thinking to be Mamshech the Yeshiyah that is needed. And he goes on to say, the Gemara says in Bruchas Aflam and Bais, Lo'olam yisadu udam shlucha yishalmukim tchila v'achakach yispal. A person should always first be Mesada the Shlach Hashem, which is the first three Bruchas in Hashem Eretzu, discusses the praise of Hashem, and then he will daven. Since he's Mesada the Shlach of Hashem, Namushta. If he's Meshabayach Hashem, Hashem is a Roi Fechoylah. All the Malachim will answer online. They will be masking to the praise. And he's praising Hashem, that Hashem has the ability of giving a refiyah. Now, after that, when he asks for rachman for refiyah, the Meluchim will not be mekapel. Chas v'shulam, if they would, it would be nagaya in the kavod HaMelech, in the shlach that he praised Hashem, that Hashem has that koyach. So the rega, he praises Hashem, machal kachayim v'chesem machayim ma'isum roi v'choylem. That's the point where you should have that in mind. The fear for the person he has in mind. But this is what we discussed last week. I found another B'nai Soscha. That B'nai Soscha is in Chodesh Tishrei Ma'alav. This B'nai Soscha is in Chodesh Kislev Tavis. B'nai Soscha says on the Pusik, Oidechu ki anisuni v'ati li yeshiu. I thank you, Hashem, for answering my yeshia, for answering my tefillah, v'ati li yeshiu, and it was a Yeshia for me. So he says pshat like this, based on a pusik in Tilim, Mehilol ekru Hashem min oivai yivushaya. So he explains, someone who has cycle, he shouldn't daven. Rather, he doesn't need to say a bekusha to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu derech bekusha that he should have a fear. He should do it derech shvach, to praise Hashem. Again, if he needs for the fear, he should thank Hashem and to praise Hashem. And Hashem has the koyach of Roi V'choylem. Now, Mehillo Ekru Hashem. Since it came through Mehillo, he praised Hashem. That's how Ekru Hashem, he called upon Hashem. Derech Hil, not Derech Bakusha. Immediately, in my Oiva Yivashaya. And be helped for my enemies. Oitchu ki anisuni. I praise Hashem in time when need. I thank Hashem. Immediately will be vati li yeshiu. Not a bakushin, shvach. We'll see immediate results. And the same thing we find in the Chador. The Chador says in the Pusik, Shiri loi, Zami loi, Sichi b'chol nifliyosav, Vesali b'shem kodsho, Yismat lai b'vakshay Hashem. Says the Chador, al Pi Zoya. The Zoya Kudush says, when a Yid is Misata. He tells over the praise and the wonder. He praises Hashem. The Malach HaShuris come and listen to his praise. Yesh lehem nachas yach. Im Meshabchem la'akadosh baruch hu sheyesh lo am nivcher kazeh. The Meluchim praise the Yidden to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he has such a nation that is praising Hashem. With this, he quotes a medrash. Whoever mentions nifla'oisav HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem does nisim, sichi b'chol nifla'oisav, is halali b'shem kodeshoi. Meluchim come and they praise that this is what the Yidden are saying. They're praising Hashem in such a madrega. Because of that, Yismach La'ev Mevakshay Hashem. If he's an Eis Surah in the future, his tefillah will be answered because he praised Hashem and his tefillah were answered. And the same thing we find, as I mentioned once in the past, we touched this Noam HaMelech. And the Noam HaMelech said, there is tefillah and tehilu. Tefilu is shaykh mekatfigim, should block his tefillah. But when it's tehilu, it's not shaykh for them to block the tefillah. Therefore, the first three bruchos and shemoneh we're not supposed to add any tefillahs, because that is tehilu. It goes to a different place in Shamayim where they're not shaykh mekatfigim. So when you place in machshava your tefillahs, at that point, in the first three bruchos and shemoneh tefillahs will be answered. There's no makatigim that will go against your tefillahs. Says this Fasemis. Says in Chanukah, awesome Yom Tov Bahal v'Hoidua. And made Chanukah into a Yom Tov, praise and thanks. Pshat, says this Fasemis. Once we recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power of doing the fiyas, yeshiyas, whatever you need, and we praise Hashem with a full heart, by doing that, we are mamshach, the light of the nes, even for the future. Every year when it comes Chanukah, you have the same zgilas, the same koyach. And the same thing applies in each and every tefillah that we have. Once you praise Hashem, you mention Sicha B'chol Nifli Yosef, the Shvach, the Tehillu, the Nisim, then you have that koyach. Not only then, even the future generations also have that koyach of davening, because that one time when Osim and Toyim B'halav V'Adu, all this gillis of that day come because of the same cheshbon. So this answers why the Anshe Knesset Agdolah were Mesakim. L'hoido yisala haloi, to praise Hashem, to thank Hashem, Meshilos v'tishbuchos. Everybody has a different way of thanking Hashem. That's why the Badram says, when it comes to Moedim de Rebunon, we have to say it ourselves. We're not Yotze from the Shlich Tzibur when he says Moedim Anachni Loch. We have to say it. That's the Moedim de Rebunon. Because everybody has a different way and a different things. What do you thank Hashem for? So therefore you're not Yotze from the Tefillah to do the Hoidur to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And by doing that, he's madrich himself not to be a kufi toiv. He has a kudis, a toiv, for everything that Hashem does for him. So when he does the Sheva Hoidur, that's the time when he can be poyel yeshiyas, and he could be makabel anything that he needs, yeshiyas and bruchas and chol toiv, through davening in such a way. As we saw in Noam HaMelech, Soska B'Chidu, and many other Surim that say the same thing. Now we'd like to change our topic from Shvach V'Hoidur LaHaKadosh Baruch Hu to Akuris HaTov. powerful sieve in the Hatzur, in the will of the Yisod Shavayim. He says like this, about giving Hoidua and Shvach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on everything. And he writes how he thanked Hashem that he sent a refuah for his son. And I'll quote the words that the Tzaddik Shoy, this is what he writes in the will to his children. Wunai Yahavai, my children, my beloved children. Hashem will be witness on me that I give HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hoidua etzime, strong thanks, the machshavta, my thoughts with these words. By these words in the Shemar Esrei. Roifai choylem imati rasirim. Atu, b'ni Moshe, you my son Moshe. You had the refuah 3 years before your wedding, you took ill, and you had the refuah. You were in my house. I think the Bavadia from Shtetzi was the doctor, Isaac Hashem's birth. And also my son Aryeh. You needed a refuah shleimim min al-shamayim. When I came home from the printer printing my sfurim, I found you were in danger in Matzif. You were very ill in Baskuni Gedoyle. And Hashem sent you a refuah berachmin Gedoyle refuah shamayim. These 2 times, from these 2 times, from when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent a refuah to Moshe and Aryeh, lo neda shim tefillah. From that point on, I didn't miss a tefillah that I didn't give a thanks, a strong thanks, the machshavta in my mind to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in my mind, because you can't add anything the first 3 brachos. When he said v'roifa choylem, that he sent a refuah to my children. And not only that, he says, Gama'atu, if Hashem is goiza on me, Yisale b'chayim v'yarech yoma yeshnoisa glineda, Hashem gives me health and long years, I will never forget giving HaKadosh Baruch Hu a hoidua when it comes to these words. Ad yoim peterusoi glineda, until I die glineda. Also, on the words of Roifai Choylem, Kolshken, I never stopped from giving a thanks to Hashem when it came to these words, Roifai Choylem, under the fear that happens b'cholais. We always need health. And if I had the fear for a headache or any ache, when I baisi, and my children do the same. Don't forget you too in this avodah to thank Hashem every day by Roifai Choylem that He gives you health for any little thing, any minor aches. You had the refuah, thank Hashem for it. The words of Roifai Choylem. To strengthen these words, I'd like to mention amazing Ramban. The Ramban is in Parshas Va'ayru. It says in Parshas Va'ayru, Moshe Rabbeinu, when Hashem asked him to go to Mitzrayim, to speak to Paro, what did he say? Ani aral sofasayim. I can't speak. Kvat per pollution. I can't talk. He's not going to listen to me. And he was strong about it. Aaron HaKohen should go. And so happened. Aaron HaKohen was the one to speak to Paro. So Mephoshim asks, Moshe Rabbeinu had such a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says, Peh al Padaboy. Moshe was a Neman, the Baisi. He could have asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me a refuah. You want me to speak to Paro? Heal me. I'll speak to Paro. It seemed they didn't ask for refuah. Why not? So the Ram answers, the Rishus Aram, because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want people to make a mistake that the reason why they were makabel the Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a good darshan, he was a good speaker, he impressed people the way he spoke. So no, I'm not a speaker, I can't talk. And yet they were makabel the Torah. They were makabel, this reason why they were makabel the Torah, because Hashem told them to be makabel the Torah, not because I'm a good speaker. That's the Ram. I want to listen to the Ramban. The Ramban says, if he would have asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a refuah, he should be healed, he should be able to speak clear, Avad Hashem would grant it. He would have a fear. But Moshe Rabbeinu did not want to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu this because he always wanted to remember the nest that happened to him. Which nest? So the Medrash tells us in Parshas Vayru, Parsha Aleph, Siman Chuvuf, Bas Paroi took in Moshe Rabbeinu to her house. She kissed him and hugged him. She loved him as if it's her own child. She wouldn't let him out from the palace. He was a beautiful looking boy, and she always wanted to look at him. She didn't take her eyes off Moshe Rabbeinu. Paroi too. Paroi kissed him, he hugged him, and Moshe Rabbeinu took the crown of Paroi and he put it on his head. So the Chatim in Mitzrayim, the Kisha Machas in Mitzrayim, told Paroi, you see what's happening? This is the boy that you have to kill. He took off the crown of your head and he's putting it on. Others say you should kill him. Others say you have to burn him. Yisro said no. Yisro was there and he said, you know what, let's do an experiment. Let's put gold and silver in one plate, a plate of gold and a plate of hot coals in one plate, and let's see which one he's going to take. He's a young child, what do you want from him? That's going to be the experiment. And Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to take the gold. Came a Malach, Gavriel, and he pushed away his hand to the coals. Picked up the coals, he put it in his mouth, and that's how he became Kvat Peh, Kvat Rishon. This is the Medrash Rabbe Shmos, Parasha Aleph Siman Chuvuf. Now, based on this Medrash, says the Ramban, L'chaim rutzu sheyishe kol yumav zeicha mahanes hazeh. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to live his whole life to remember this nest. He would not want to be Masir Das from the Chesed Hashem that did with him. So what do we see from here? An amazing Misa, piece of Misa. The Derech Olam is, when Hashem does a nest, you remember it for a day, a week, a month. After a few months, you forget about it. Taki, you thank, you keep on thanking, but it becomes Shvachem and Shvachem. Moshe Rabbeinu was different. He didn't want to have that. He wanted for any person who is Duvik B'Hashem, he has an Israkshis. It'll take a little longer. He doesn't want to be Mesir Das. But Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to remember this nest for the rest of his life, as we once mentioned when Ramshik says that Laya said, Apam Moedes Hashem, Al Kan Kodesh Shemo Yehidu. So he explains, the Mura says, there was never a person until now that thanked Hashem like Laya did. What did she do so special? She gave her son a name Yehuda. He said, Apam Moedes Hashem? I'll thank Hashem once for having Yehuda. That's it? Yoitze? No. Every time I call my son Yehuda, it will remind me, thank Hashem. Yehuda, thank Hashem. It says that Ramban, the same thing that Moshe Rabbeinu did the same thing. He wanted to remember Hashem and to thank Hashem for the rest of his life. Therefore, he did not down to Hashem he should be healed, because he wanted to remember the nest that happened to him, not to be Mesir Das on this nest. All his life was money. The same thing we find by Avram Avinu as well. It says by Avram Avinu, so Rashi says, Ufor, through the Maluchim. He could have been a Ufor, they would have killed him. Aifer, through Nimrod. Wanted to burn him. And the Masa, he always remembered the nisim that happened to him, never forgot about it, lived with it. And that's the pshat. Years later, he said, "Enochi ufa v'haifa." He was very young at that time, but he remembered years later, "Enochi ufa v'haifa." This is what the Sod Shoyesh Avodah says. Since this mess happened, my children were healthy. I'm healthy. I had different aches. Hashem sent me a refuah and a little ache. A place where to thank Hashem and keep on thanking. And I said, the rest of my life, I thanked Hashem. I came to the words of Roif HaCholim with thought in mind of Roif HaCholim. And so the Shoyesh Avodah himself in the Sefer, this is in the Sefer himself in Shah Avodah, he says, again on the words of Roif HaCholim, Rui v'yusha, it's only the right thing to do. If a person has a choyle b'toch baisoi, and someone who is ill in his house, and he became healed, when it comes to these words, Roif HaCholim, you should thank Hashem and praise Hashem b'kevuna atzim, with strong kavuna, b'machshavto in his mind, la'aboydes buryo shamoy, that he sent him in a field lo'isa choyle. Melech maximise matzmiach yeshiyum. Melech says it's all the Shoyesh Avodah. You should have a mind b'simcha atzima, with a strong simcha. These are the words of the Shoyesh Avodah. Atu melech good levanoidu. Im lo yechav zois, if he doesn't have a mind, atu melech good levanoidu, and he chaps these words, and he right away he goes to the next words. In other words, that's not the proper way of saying the word melech. You should have a mind that's melech. You shouldn't have these words. You should have a mind melech kudl v'noiru. Melech malcham luchem hakudosh baruch. Says the Mabit. Mabit writes, Melech maximise Machayim Ma'aseh Ma'atorav Lo Hishia, referring to Yitzchak. Yitzchak by the Akaidah. Shehechu es Yitzchak, according to one pshat, he became alive again. And Chazal Darshan, once the call came out, Al Tishlach Yotchu Alamah, Chozr Nafshoy, the Medrash says, his nefesh came back. At that point, when that happened, Yitzchak got up on his feet, and he knew that there's going to be Tchias HaMaisim, Pusach v'Umma Burich Atu Hashem V'chaya HaMaisim. This is what Yitzchak said. Okay, we'll stop over here.